Chris's slides. Is that right? Can you hear me? That was a really good conversation, and it's that same thing of, for the first 2 minutes you're like, ah! And then you're like, yes, we know what we're doing. So we had representatives from the Skegness art scene, from Portsmouth University, from Hull Outdoor Arts Organisation, from mental health and photography, and coming in from the outside and seeing this world, but also being based in the south of the county, South Holland, very exciting, and myself. And so the conversation started looking at, well, it just happened to turn into an understanding of the way that geography impacts us. Either physical geography, rivers slicing through places, coasts meaning that everything's fragmented along the edges, or the distances one has to travel. Then you've got that social geography of, I'm making that up, I know this phrase, I don't know what it means, of wealthy communities, more impoverished communities, people who feel able to access and do, people who don't know that it exists or wouldn't know how to engage with it if it came, and how to reach those people and how to make connections. That's expanded into this sense of the international challenge of migration, the fact that and it's interlocal, people that you know because you've met them and you look past the colour or the accent and you love them and you value them, but because the Daily Mail tells you everyone else is very bad. And what we'd love to do is to create ways of getting people closer to humans, telling human stories, and using this project to get those conversations going so that we start to be more intelligent about knowing that everybody has a human story. And that includes people who are currently living on the streets in Skegness, who have important stories to tell. We should value people and make them visible and respect them, and that's a really exciting opportunity. We were talking about the fact that yesterday there was data to show that something like half of the public purse annually will be spent on health in 20 minutes or something like that, and the way in which the arts and culture should be central to improving health outcomes and how we can use that for documentary purposes, for research purposes, or for making people happy purposes. Portsmouth University research, sociology, opportunity, can't read now because I haven't got glasses on, but I've forgotten. Looking at thematic social divisions, the wider inequalities of society, and I've forgotten that bit. Anyway, there was some really good work where it's told about ways of gathering data, and the thing that I'm really keen on that everyone agreed with, which is good because otherwise I'll kill them, is the importance for this next project, SEAS2, being about, as we did in the open session a couple of days ago, it's all about the questions. Let's frame the questions, and the outcome is the learning. So we're not going to be stratified and fix on we're going to do exactly this thing. What we're going to say is these are the questions we agree on, and we're going to energetically engage and apply resources and creativity to the journey of learning, and the outcome will be what we learn. And Portsmouth University are going to be the people who help us make that happen, because they have the clever ways of data gathering and proving what's occurred. So that's why we're lucky. And I think that's sort of, will that do people? Yeah. And then the other thing I'd like to say is, because I was a bit coherent sometimes, other times not, I'd be more than happy to type these notes up in a meaningful way. Thank you. Maybe shorter than I thought.
Sorry.
I'm
with you, it's fine.
5.5, a bit more. So I'd be more than happy to type up these notes in properly so that we can share the proper conversation, not just my garbled ideas bit.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brad. Can you present yourself as well so people know who you are?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So my name is Bradley Smith. I'm a music technology for education specialist. I was a primary teacher, and then I was assistant head at Leicestershire Music, who are the hub lead organisation for Leicestershire, who are DfE Arts Council funded music services. In case any of you may or may not know about those, and I work as a consultant for music education services around the country, around SEND and mainstream music technology in the classroom. I do not know how I've ended up doing for this group, and I certainly won't have as much content as you did yourself there.
You speak English, that's a criteria.
Absolutely best. So we started off with the linchpin being around young people and inspiring young people to feel engaged, like they have voice and ownership over putting together their future opportunities. We threw so many wonderfully bizarre and incredible ideas around the table. Some of the things around what speaks to them. From a strategic point of view, if you want to access young people and get people voice, then use the partners who are already naturally engaging with those young people already, and don't try to come in and swoop in and suddenly take a vested interest in working with those young people. Utilise the partners who already are working with those young people. There was an idea around the whole dating, the artist dating model is really lovely. Could that be done with a young person centric model in mind? Could we get young artists from around Europe, young adults, who could then come and exchange with the young people from around here? Young people get on well and listen and take inspiration from other young people rather than, and don't get me wrong, us older people, we can absolutely inspire them, but maybe we won't carry as much sort of weight in our conversation because we can't relate possibly as closely to what they're experiencing in their day-to-day lives as other young people. So to have that here...
There's a cross-generational thing as well from history, heritage and history, wasn't there?
Yeah, did you want to speak more around that? Because that was...
Well, maybe. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
This lady here, and I've forgotten your name already, I'm really sorry, is from the National Trust, and particularly talking about a place in Sutton-on-Sea that's got interest in, that I know nothing about, but we're talking about the place potentially being labelled for Sutton-on-Sea, Skegness. And the gentleman here who's had to go to a rehearsal talks about a building that by 26, 27 will be complete, a former courthouse venue or something. So that's a result. Theatre. We talked about heritage lottery potentially as a resource for funding, and then the content would be guided co-creation with youth groups and secondary schools in that partnership, with that partnership thing idea. So we give the young people examples of what culture's about, what is spoken word, what is theatre and what is music, what is outdoor arts and what is indoor arts, and then so they're being given some examples, and then we go to them as well, we go to their meeting places, and then they co-create work.
Yeah, lovely, thank you for that.
Sorry.
No, it's good. Again, there's a lot. I'll just cap this off. From my personal experience of working with young people, especially disaffected young people who don't feel there's much in it for them, I think there's a lot of value in providing a range of quite clear and very attainable pathways of which they can move into, so they don't feel it's just an activity that amounts to nothing, and meeting them on their own turf. And I'm going to say some kind of cliche things here that people would know, but allowing them to see pathways to clearly monetize what they do very, very quickly, for them to be able to acquire accreditations, and simple things like support with, okay, so now you've done this artistic activity, which has led to an Arts or Gold Arts Award, which is worth UCAS points, which we have facilitated and supported with. Now let's help you with creating your CV and your artistic repertoire, and how can you monetize that? Could you stream on Twitch and other social media platforms that mean a lot more to you than they possibly do to me as a 40-year-old man? I don't engage with, I do a bit of streaming, I'm not going to lie, I've done some streaming. I've got a little bit of cool left, maybe a year or two, if I'm lucky. But speak the language and let them see there's ways for them to earn money. And I'm sorry to say it, because we're here for the art, we're here for the culture, but to young people, for them to see that money can be a byproduct of their artistic engagement, that speaks to them. I'm not going to harp on, that's my soapbox moment, but they're the things that matter to us in our wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Anyone going to?
Well, I think it's going to be me, but I don't know how.
Go for it.
This is Julie's expertise. You'll be fine.
Oh, right. I think I'm probably about the right height. So I'm Julie Ward. I'm a bit of an interloper here. I have to say thank you to Chris for inviting me at really short notice. I'm on the board of Culture Action Europe, and Chris is a member and a former board member, and we were together at a conference in Turin last week. But I'm British, you know, British. I live in the northeast of England, and for 5.5 years I was a member of the European Parliament, representing the northwest of England, and I was on the Culture and Education Committee. But my background is I'm really a poet and a theatre maker, angry woman. Right? What else?
That's a profession.
Yeah.
That's a profession.
It's angry. Yeah, use it. Right. It's important, use it. Don't let it make you paralysed. So, I'm really glad to be here for lots of reasons. And somehow I got to write the notes. And actually, we didn't address the 3 questions for very long, I have to admit, because we found ourselves on a table where all of us came from very, very different organisations and very different backgrounds. And that in itself was a really rich conversation. So the things that I'm going to say I also will be from some quite personal kind of individual ideas and projects that people talked about. Local, in terms of target groups, trying to support local artists really feels super important, and I think that felt important for all the people who were there, that you know, not everybody is looking to London or Manchester or Edinburgh as the in place to make a living. It's really, really hard if you're in those cities, in fact, to pay the rent. So trying to be an artist, make a living, find your way in more peripheral areas where there, you know, where there's extraordinary inspiration, but there are also organisations and opportunities and sometimes wonderful ways of experimenting which don't exist in those big cities. And I think, Sunny, your story really spoke to that, the story about like just setting up in a marketplace in Boston to basically just collect stories. It would be really hard to do that in some other places, but you can do that in the more smaller peripheral areas, and I thought that was just such a great model. Also, we talked about hidden communities. So, you know, because of the horrendous politics in this country right now, the division, the way that, you know, that communities have been kind of pitted against each other. Even for me, coming on the train from Grantham yesterday across here, I felt kind of like a bit like, you know, it's like because of what's been happening nationally, and also, you know, ever since the Brexit vote, that it's been quite difficult to go to some places without having a kind of perception. And I think looking at the hidden communities, some of which again were brought up in these conversations, actually reveals a richer, different, more truthful kind of portrait of places. And so many coastal communities are suffering from this, you know, false perception at the minute. So we had around the table, I'm living and working in the northeast of England now, and I'm working in Sunderland and South Tyneside and East Durham Coalfield area. Somebody on the table is in Newquay. We all think Newquay is like a really sexy, cool kind of surfing place, but actually it's another forgotten about remote coastal community. And Carl, you're in Portsmouth, but again, people just saying, oh, well, that's where all the Navy is, and they can't think of anything else. So what seems to be really, really important about this project is trying to uncover those untold stories, which are at the heart of the community, which if you go into those cafes and spaces and village halls and clubs and bingo halls and gaming alleys and all the rest of it. You will hear those stories, and I was really struck just walking from the hotel this morning here. How many people smiled at me? How many people said hello to me? How many people stopped to talk about the weather, or we had a chat about their dog, right? That human connection is really, really important, and actually bringing more people to encounter that feels really, really key at the minute. So hidden communities at the heart of this work feels important. And yes, we did talk about politics, but what we should be talking about is the people who are not voting. We should be talking about the people who've totally given up, who don't feel they have any agency anymore, because they're actually the majority, the people who don't feel represented. So rather than getting stuck on somebody's a Reform voter or a Labour voter or a Tory voter or a Green voter, what we should be trying to do is to look at somebody, was it you, Sunny, said you really like that idea of democratic conversations. So we could.
You said it, I just repeated.
All right, well, it's nice. I don't want to sort of hold the conversation, but we were I feel, and I think we all felt, that people need to be listened to, and that the listening, the art of listening, is missing today, and that cultural activists and people using cultural tools can be the people to hold those conversations. They can be the people to open up the space for listening, for deep listening. And then the work that comes out of that, we finally got to it, should reflect that, so that when people see the work, what they see is their own stories. They see representations of things, of true things, that nobody else is seeing and nobody else is listening to. So being able to see and hear yourself in whatever is created, whether it's a soundscape, a theatre piece, a poem, a song, an opera, whatever it is, there should at least be some reflection back. I just feel it would be important to talk about your nature reserve thing, yeah? So the National Trust, again, we talked about perceptions, and lots of people think the National Trust is fancy, you've got to have a car to get there, you know, you need to have a pass, it's a big fancy house, you've got to have some money, the cup of tea is going to cost you a tenner, right? And actually the National Trust owns, for us, the citizens, owns lots of wild spaces where we can go for free, where we can reconnect with nature, and that seemed to me to be another thing which we as cultural activists, we could do something about that. We can open up those spaces and demonstrate actually that these wild spaces belong to all of us, yeah? They belong to all of us, that we can do things there, we can enjoy those spaces, and actually artists could be in those spaces, again, curating, listening, responding, making work. So that's kind of, we didn't talk about resources. I think that was the second question. I kind of feel that the resources need to be about more time to talk, more meetings. For me, it feels like, and I wasn't here for the previous couple of days, but it feels like we might, as a group of people who really care about this kind of work, it feels like there needs to be more opportunities to experiment, maybe some resources for labs, maybe a mentoring came up as well, Sunny, and I thought that was super. Sorry? Sonia, sorry. Yeah, Sonia.
That's Sunny.
Like the fact that
Oh, there she's Sunny. I named you. Yeah, so that story about your own personal story felt like a story that had lots of learning in it for us. I would say that, yeah, and also Carl, your story, what you're doing at the university, yeah, being able to find something that is a non-threatening environment, non-threatening framework for local people.
Yes.
So yeah, anyway, sorry if I've spoken too long.
No, great, thank you.
Okay, right, that's it.
We need time to get all the information.
Who's next? Oh, yes, here we go.
That's all right.
Graham, would you be willing to No?
Good.
Okay, we've got Graham after that, then we've got
Graham
one,
after.
Damien took it
I
on.
think-
Graham will take our
sorry.
group.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of hook on to the end of what was said there. I'll just make a big moment. So we were talking about national trust in these spaces, and a lot of the conversations over the last couple of days included respite. So there doesn't have to be a big jazzy event. That respite sometimes, and the opportunity to go through the wetlands will be a massive resource. But I think we were talking about the narratives and the polarization versus real experience of a place. I really, there's a sort of bugbear of mine that when the TV goes to a place, it's on a Tuesday afternoon at about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and interviews people in the street. That's not the ordinary person in that area. Anybody that's free on a Tuesday afternoon at 2:30, wandering the high street, cannot speak for the entire space, but it always happens. And I don't know that we did resources and content, but what we really dwelt upon was the idea of the coastal aspects, the ebb and flow of people movement, of materials. And if we're going to talk about coastal region, that idea that as much goes out as comes back in, whether that's materials, people, experiences, and how we can do that, and commonality. And I think we talked about, we've got people in our group that do performance and live experience and engage with people in groups and engage, but this idea of mirroring what's there. So a lot of people will moan, but you go, part of what's been interesting in conversations is that if you go to a new space, you're more than likely to try and find the positives or pick things out. So as a local architect, I'll probably know roughly what's in the town or city that I'm going to go and see. But it's those surprise moments or things that resonate with you. And by having a visitor or a guest, we've probably all experienced it, particularly in Lincolnshire. Someone will come up to visit me from London and they're just like, oh, it's amazing here. You've got all these lovely little shops, you've got these artisans. I'm being stereotypical, but it's like you've got a reserve, you've got beaches, it's all so amazing. And they go away and you go, oh yeah, I guess so. And I think this idea of mirroring, getting people in and having those conversations and experiences, but also the commonality, whether there's tide or there's a movement, so whether we come along the coast with a project that gets moved from place to place, or the experience, or across to Europe or other places and then back, but using that idea of the movement to connect. But just really, we talked about the lived experiences and connecting people. There were some really good examples of work that take place in theatre. The widows of men lost at sea standing on the doorsteps came up, and there's just like things that resonate with people. But I think a lot can be quite simple, where you just show people how good things are. Like the lovely idea that people have come to Skegness and people smiled and said hello. That's not the narrative that's in the press or in the newspapers. So it's that lived experience. Does that encompass what we said? Sorry. Someone else took the notes.
No.
Thank you.
You can't capture it all. Graham, the councillor, he was in our group.
Right.
He's coming now. You don't have to cover everything, Graham, don't worry, we'll jump in.
I was going to ask that.
No, so go ahead and, what you remember from it.
You can see I'm accustomed as I have to speak. What I found out of this whole experience today, because like some others, I didn't come to the first 2 days because I was with all my clients, is the diversity and the range of different people's skills and interests. But what we do out here, and I know I'm not talking directly to what we said, but I think as a politician for small fee, it's important that when we get something like this happens in my area, that we speak to the people that come and say how grateful we are that you've come here, how much we're learning from you and how much I am learning, and I'm
growing as a politician, representing my communities, how I can develop it, what is available, and share the experiences. So moving on to the topics that we had, was what's our target group? Well, there's quite clearly people say, well, we've got to encourage the young, and then we've got to encourage the old, and then we've got to do the middle-aged. But actually, we need to do them all, because young children will bring grandparents, and grandparents will take young children. Mum and dad are too busy in today's day and age to do anything cultural or anything unless they're very lucky. But it's what we offer and how we excite people to want to become involved. How many can remember going to school and doing the Christmas play or the summer performance? I've got grandchildren now at school. We just don't have those things anymore. There appears to be no culture tied in to the school curriculum, which is really sad. Because to make it work for me, we've got to entice the young people to start asking why, and developing the interest, and asking the questions. Because without doing that, we're all going to be fragmented. We're going to be on a skateboard, we're going to be kicking down the street corners, we're going to be doing all the things that we think are bad, but actually, we've not let the children have the experiences to get into culture that we know it. And we know it because we're interested. We're sort of professional. Some of us here are very professional. Some, like me, are the small kids. And we just support it wherever we can because we think it's important. That's taking that one. What was the next one we talked about?
Yeah, no, I'll help in. I mean, we talked a little bit about what I thought was very interesting, and what Graham and other people really underlined, was that we were talking about target groups, but also target bridges, the intergenerational bridge. That you can talk about a target group, yes, we should work with children, yes, we should work with youth, yes, we should work with old people, but in reality what we should work with is the bridge that brings them together. So this is about knowledge transfer. It could be mentally disabled together with abled community. It could be physical. It could be immigrants together with a dominant culture. Any bridging that needs to be done. So maybe we should start to use not just target groups, which is a kind of traditional way of breaking up segmenting the society, but target bridges where meetings must take place. I think that was one thing.
Absolutely.
We talked about different places. I think they say something about museums and libraries and all, and also based on your work.
We're unfortunate in Lincolnshire that the libraries have suffered a demise quite badly over the last few years. Some of the smaller ones would have closed completely, but they've been taken over by local groups who have kept them open. But do they have the skills to develop from what was a library that lent books or taught a few kids to read into what the resource is today that would excite the kids to go back in, to learn how you don't need a physical book to open it. You can actually join the library on your digital device, have a code that you get in, choose the books you want to read. All these things are available, but do we develop them enough? Are they important enough for us to want to make them work? Because if we don't put it there for the kids, we can't complain when they find their way in, and they will, and find the wrong bits. Let's guide them to the right bits before they start the inquiry mind. Let's get what they are absorbing off the internet and all the rest of it. Let's get it controlled in a sensible way. It was interesting to see the lady from National Trust here. A lot of you won't know, but there is, right around the coast of England, there's going to be the King's Walk. In Lincolnshire, we're quite lucky, but we've actually started to develop that. You can walk quite a way of that round. But we have what we call, or what I like to refer to, as the pearls on the necklace. So you can start right down at Skegness, and you've got a new development built that's, I can't remember its name now, but it replaced one that washed away, which is a learning centre, but a cafe. Gibraltar, thank you. I've just had to test it, the people are away. You go to Gibraltar Point, and then you go further up, you go to Chapel St Leonard's, and you've got a brand new build there on the point, which is also been designed to be used for art and culture, for displays and everything. And again, a cafe, because that's what people come to the coast for entertainment and food and all that. And you go further up, and you've got the cloud bar. And everything, what's a cloud bar? Well, it's actually quite fun to take your kids there. And instead of doing that, you do this and look down at the mirrors which reflect the different clouds, and all the information's there so you can follow it. Go a bit further, you come to Huttock Bank, and there's another brand new build which is a cafe with an observation roof on it. Go a little bit further, you come to the National Trust's thing at Sutton-on-Sea. A little bit further into Sutton-on-Sea, and you get the new colonnade, which is going to have the new arts council thing in there that's designed for that. And of course, I forgot the most important one, which is this, which is our culture house in Skegness, run by Magnavita, and very well, I must admit. So we are developing all these things that's culture based. We're just not getting it out very well that they're here yet. But they're here, and we need to push them forward. And that's partly what my function is, I think, is to get that information out there, get people infused, get people wanting to come. Anything else?
No, I think that's pretty good. I'll follow up on that a little bit, because I think it was really important, this discussion about the libraries. We talked about resources, a physical place, libraries that are disappearing or that are changed, as you said, have a new, let's say, driver or motor who's running it, with or without the specific skills, but also museums and finding new functions for museums. Not just a place where old objects are shown, but where, and again, we're back to bridging. We're bridging knowledge. I could say one more thing, a couple of things that I thought were said here. One was this connection between grandparents and grandchildren, which I really find very exciting as a grandparent myself. But also because I know that I've seen examples, and when it happens, the kids are wild about it, and the grandparents they maintain their lust for life. You know, it's nothing worse than feeling like you're not needed anymore, and then suddenly you get this little kid who you are the most needed person in the world. You know,
Maybe because you've got money in your pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's good. It was mentioned also by our colleague from the Arts Council. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Yeah, about children under 5, very young people. How exactly that fits into a target group for a cultural work, I'm not sure, but it's because it's a very special work to work with very young children. And then there was our colleague who told us about the whole library and the children's festival that they do, and where the library as a space emanated a festival which was about storytelling in some way, if I understood it properly. I'm sure it's many different ways of doing it. And again, this reminds me of that we have cultural necklaces of pearls, and we have physical necklaces of pearl necklaces, and we can combine these, because what you just said now, you drew a map for us. And then it's no longer about what am I going to do in Hull in my library, and what are you going to do in Mablethorpe in your cultural center. It's about what are we going to do that's going to take us through this. And I have to say my last thing about listening to what the other people were saying. Let us not forget that at least the message or the story, the narrative that we're carrying here is welcoming the international perspective. And the people from another place where the reality, the context is different, how that can open up, and I think someone said it, how it can open up your eyes, that you suddenly have somebody who comes and sees with other eyes. And this is a really important part of at least what I think SEAS 2 is about. It's not just about coastal community, it's about coastal community as a concept, which is responded to in very different ways in Bulgaria, in the south of Italy, in Rotterdam, Helsingør, which is a close colleague. And we know how Jens and his team and people and friends and colleagues from both Passage Festival and Helsingør, how they have been stimulated by the meeting with Skegness, and how Skegness has been stimulated by the meeting and the knowledge that he and his colleagues bring here. So this mutual learning thing is so important, and we can get a little hung up. So I worry about one thing, if I may say. There's a talk about supporting local artists, and nothing is more important. We want the artists to stay here. We want them to work here, not just go emigrate to London, and that's the last time we see them. And Lisa, February yesterday, was speaking about her intention of remaining. As it, everyone kept telling her, "You're a young, brilliant person. Get away, go do something." No, she wants to stay. So, but we have to make sure that this supporting local artists doesn't come in conflict with supporting imported ideas and new perspectives coming from the outside. That they are not in conflict with one another. Economically, it potentially can be so. If you only got 10 euros and you spend 8 of it on international artists because it's a bit more expensive for travel and everything else, then the local artists say, well, wait a minute, what happened to us? Those are our 8 euros that are being spent on Dritero Kasapi or Wunderbaum. No, unfortunately or fortunately, we have to be able to do both of those. And because without both sides of it, I think we're going to start being like a snake that eats its own tail. We go around, we become culturally introverted. And we don't have time to be culturally introverted in this world where we are so interdependent, not because of environmental questions, migration, and many other things that cannot be solved in a closed space.
Can I just ask Greg
Please,
one
John.
question when he's there? Because obviously, with Doreen's work, what she did all those years ago was fundamental in all this happening. And Colin Davey with Old Structures on the Edge, which you just said about all these wonderful projects that happened along our coastline. Now we've had a recent election, a big upheaval, new MPs. Do you feel that these new politicians are really behind, what's happening here now? Because obviously there is big changes happening here, and I don't think some of these changes and what I'm seeing are not good. I just wanted, while we got a counter in the room, your perspective on what's going on because of these changes that have happened recently.
Right. Well, I don't want to make it political, so
No.
I'm going to be very bland about it.
No. I want
Every
everyone
time
on
you
board.
get a change of councillors,
Yeah.
and councillors that make decisions like we make at SEAScape, because we're the control group, there is always a conflict about what they want to achieve and what the others want to achieve and where most money goes to support it. I am hopeful that the new administration that's taken over the county council will see the benefit of culture and will continue to put money and resources working with district councils and companies like Magna and keep developing culture. And you're right, Doreen was a great ambassador that started this, but this is miles away from what Doreen started. It's now a lot better. But that's because organisations like this, Arts Council, and people's perceptions, we hope it develops and it grows and it gets better. So that's, I mean, like you, I've got some concerns, but I would not voice them off as negative concerns against a particular group. But whenever you get a change of council, you always have a clash of things. And not forgetting that local government review is on the horizon in 2 years' time. There maybe won't be a county council or district council. There might be a unitary, which will have a whole new concept of what's important to it and how much their money they get as to what they can afford to spend on, because councils have got to spend money on essential services, statutory services, and then we spend the crumbs on other things like...
But the most important thing, we do have some wonderful things happening here.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yes. And that's down to
it's getting that
people,
word out.
and people are having a foresight and being passionate about it. And I've said many times that when I first became a councillor, culture to me was this. I wasn't interested. It didn't float my boat. Since I've got involved with culture and had my eyes open, as it were, and seen the benefits, because part of my portfolio used to be adult social care and people in need, how you can improve their lives through culture has changed me completely. So I'm not just keen on culture. I'm a culture committed fanatic.
Good to meet you again.
Okay.
And to you, Toxcom.
Yes.
And I was wanting to make the point that we're doing this anyway. We're not waiting to be given the go-ahead from the local government or a funder. We're going to do this anyway and make it work, because this opportunity will not come back again. If we lose it this time, it will not come back again. So I think, you know, with all sort of, you know, recognition to people who are working with local authorities and with those types of funding, luckily, currently we still have the Arts Council, and the Arts Council are fully supportive of what we do. They were fully supportive in 2007. They were the ones who talked to Joy Stevenson and converted her. That was a journey. She didn't come fully ready for it, because it was a massive jump for East Lindsey to do that. And we're just going to do it again, aren't we?
Thank you, and Nikki just said exactly what it is that I was thinking as Graham was speaking this, and even your question, John. I'm not going to say I'm not a political person. I am, of course, to some degree. But what we are talking about now, I was raised in such a naive idea of democracy that the politicians follow the people. Not that they are deciding for us what we do, but that we make it clear to them what needs to be done, or what we want, and what we're focusing on. And that I think that many of them have the same experience and capacity as Graham to go from being uninterested to being convinced. So our job as cultural workers is not to divide or in any way politicize this question. Cultural action, in this way that we are talking about it now, organized cultural action on an international level, it cannot and may not be stopped by any kind of political limitations. The biggest problems we're going to have are economic and access to space. These are the two things that we need to find out. So I think we, unless there's somebody else that we need to talk to, I think we'll move towards a break. We will take a break now. I want to say this is really interesting, and also listening to the other conversations. We have all of the resources necessary to make this project in this room right now. We almost don't need anything else, except for some of our artists that we want to propose to you from other countries that have not been able to be here. And even some of them are represented here with Ritero and Paulo, representing two of our SEAS artists. We have everything. What we want to use the last hour, 45 minutes to an hour after we take our break, is to look forward. What is in the making in the future for port towns and sea resorts in East Midlands, in this area? What connections can we make that actually can turn this into a large-scale, or a networked project over quite a wide geographic space as well, and time. And we have time to do that between now and 26 and 27. But we're going to need each one of you to carry your little weight. And it's not like so we are looking for co-producers, co-hosts, co-sponsors, co-creators, and we need a list of those before we leave from here today. So I'm going to ask you to tell Adam if you have a specific organization during the break and directly after our last session, if you have a specific organization or position, or even as an individual artist, and you really think that this is something that you would like to be connected to, please make sure that Adam has our email, your email and the name of your organization, and that even if you can say a couple of words about what it is that you're specifically interested in: youth, intergenerational, national trust, museums, libraries, whatever it is that is your specialty, put it there, and then we'll start to make the map, and we'll send it all back to you before this, after a while. As soon as we can. Summertime is coming up, not to lay in the sun for everybody. Okay, let's take 15 minutes and have a cup of coffee, and we'll come back for the last hour. Thank you.
When you lie in the sun in Italy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where do you go on? Because Italy, you don't need to go on holiday.
Well, I live in Napoli, which is in the center of the city, so I can only sit on my balcony and look at somebody. I love nothing. But I have a house since 23 years in a small village out in the sea that I share with my ex-wife. So we have sometimes each month. So no, it's beautiful. I have a terrace and I have a beach here, 15-minute walk to the olive trees. I'm on the biggest, beautiful white beach right.
Yeah, and likewise, Lanzarote, because I mean, I've become the sort of Cesar Manrique real fan of his, he did for the island, because he wasn't just an artist, he was an architect. And even today, when we talk about travel lodges, and I wanted to say, and what I see happen, that would never happen in Lanzarote.
But it happened in the whole southern coast of Spain.
Yeah, because he focused on it, he protected it, and even now, he died in 98, but even now they see him as a god, and there's no billboards on the island, no high-rise buildings, and they've just named the airport after him, and he was hated by a lot of people, particularly politicians.
Right, because he was blocking what was a quick economic development.
Yeah, but people now they see him.
But Italy doesn't have exactly that problem because Italy has so much cultural heritage. But the only thing they have to do is keep on protecting building access to the coast. And they do that in Italy to a certain point. But I mean, from Berlusconi and forward, it's a slow eating away at that. But generally speaking, you can't own coastlines. I mean, my village, Pisciocca, is in the middle of a national park, so you can't build any new buildings. You're not allowed to build any new buildings. All you can do is take an old building and renovate it, maybe enlarge it by 10%. So there's no hotels being built, there's no villaggio.
Very interesting to look at this, where you'll have to write it down, and I'll look at it on Google.
Oh, it's a beautiful place. It's very authentic little village.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay. Be right with you. Hi, it's Steve. Yeah, that's right. We just connected on the link this way. Yes.
Hi Adam, Hi Adam. Hello. Welcome to project to group
Yes, that would be great. Write the details down there. You probably could have done here. Yeah, don't just write it on.
I'm working with a group comprised of local actors, Lincoln University, a co-production network and some practitioners to set up a photography festival around Lincolnshire next year, particularly looking at health and reflecting that.
So you're going to get the commissioning money from the NHS.
We have been advised by funding.
Is it easy? Does it make sense? Is it accessible?
So
Is it accessible, the application for the NHS money?
sorry.
Sorry. the commissioning money for the NHS, is it easy to get hold of? Is it clear how you do it?
No, I haven't been given a steer on that yet.
Yeah, because there is I think there's a bit of a problem whether all that description, doesn't quite fit together sometimes.